Hi there, this is Tom. I'm going to show you how to fix a T-Fal beer tender. History of this machine is I've repaired it several times already. It's usually the power supply. I've had things like capacitors exploding, fuses burning up inside. I've been able to fix it 2 or 3 times so far. Today I tried to get some beer out of it and it was hot. So here we go again. Okay, so here we go. I've got the back off. So the power supply is in this little black box right here. Basically, all it is a 12 volts power supply. There's a thermoelectric set of coolers right here. The fan blows air over it, removes the heat from the cooler. Just runs when there's 12 volts to it. Pretty simple operation. So we're going to take apart the power supply and see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. If I remember right, the first thing you have to do is unsnap the cover on the power supply, and then there's some screws underneath that will allow you to unmount it. Okay, you can see I've unsnapped the cover. So basically there's a release on the top and there are 2 on the side, and you just have to kind of manhandle it. The other thing I'm going to do is disconnect the switch because this cover's in the way. So basically I'm going to be able to squeeze this together and pull the switch out so I can get this big cover up out of my way and have some room to work. Okay, so on the next step, actually what I ended up doing was just unplugging these 2 wires from the switch rather than unsnapping it out of the housing. The other thing you see, I've kind of removed the power supply here. This section over here basically is for the cooling system. This is a power supply, this whole huge thing right here. You can disconnect this, at one of these connectors here, and then you can try to figure out what's wrong with it. So one other thing I'm going to try to do, there's a fuse over here that's blown before that's hard soldered in. I'm going to check that. Previous repairs, these capacitors right here have exploded. If you ever see one with a bulge on the top, that means it's no good. Likewise, there's another one over here to check. So in the past I've replaced capacitors a couple times and this blown fuse. So anyway, I'm going to disconnect this and check back. Okay, this is bad. So what I've done here is I jumpered the power system with just an alligator clips just to take the place of the switch. Took this out. It's clearly marked. You've got two black cables, 2 red, so you got positive and negative that connect from here on the board over to here on this refrigeration portion. So basically it's supposed to be 12 volts, so I just ran these leads to my voltmeter. You can see that it's putting out 12.78 volts DC. So for once it's not the power supply, something else. Okay, so again, if you remember from the first portion we were talking about, you can have blown capacitors, fuses, things wrong with this power supply. That was the typical failure. I've got it all jumpered together with a bunch of alligator clips. So now I've fed from here 12 volts to the meter, and then off that same jumper I've ran the 12 volts to the refrigeration board, which is right down in here. Nothing's happening that I can see anyway, but now that I'm looking at this, I think the fan is shot because this thing should sort of spin, and it's fairly hard to turn, like it won't spin. So I think the bearings in the fan are probably just fried, and without air cooling the system it's probably not going to work. So I'm going to check into that next. Okay, so I've taken the fan out, kind of played with it, tried to get it spin. It is spinning now. There was also a ton of dust up in here, which I'm sure didn't help. I still think the fan's probably the weak link here because I kind of spun it with my hand. I'll see if I can stop it and it'll restart. Seems like it did. Maybe it was just kind of jammed. I know this thing's getting old. I'm going to look for another one. What I can do here though is there's a sticker on the back. I'll go on eBay and see if I can find a ADDA model, and it's got a model number on it. I'll just see if I can get one of these for $2 or $3. So the next thing I'm going to do is kind of stick my hand up here. This thing should get warm, which it is, which means it's working because it's transferring heat from the inside. I'll come around here, and these are getting cold, so that's good. That means the refrigeration thing is working. So it's cold on one side, hot on the other. The fan's spinning now. Unfortunately, it's held on by these rubber things, so I broke them because I couldn't figure out how to get it off any other way. So I'll probably glue this back in place or use some wire ties. I'm going to put it all back together and see if it'll run for a couple days. Okay, so here we go again. I looked at these fans, and they're actually about $20. You can get them at Radio Shack. I expected this to be like $2 on eBay, and the cheapest I found was a refurbished or a working used one for about $10. So I started thinking, if somebody can refurbish these, then I should be able to at least take it apart. So I peeled up the decal that was on the back of the fan here. It had the part number. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little rubber plug. I just stuck a screwdriver down in there and pried it off. And then, it's going to be hard to see, but try to zoom in here. There's a little shaft. Whoops. In there, and basically I had a little retaining washer, so it's kind of hard. I used the screwdriver and just kind of pried it out, and it didn't break. So the washer is right up here on top, and you see it's got a little split in it so you can get it off. Now hopefully I'm just going to push that back on. But anyway, when you do that, then the fan comes right out. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Maybe. Oh, I thought I could. Let me push it out. Maybe it's because it's got little magnets in it. Let me see if I can find something to push it one-handed. Here. Nope. Huh. Here. Yeah, I'll just push it out like that with my fingers. Anyway, you can see it's just a little, it's a DC brushless motor. And part of the motor is kind of built into the fan. So there's a little metal shaft there, and I took some lubricant. I just used something called Lockies. It's got graphite in it, so I had some at home. And I put some Lockies on this little shaft right here, and the motor works like it's new. So I refurbished it myself. So I'm just going to put it back together. I'll put another drop on since I've got it apart. Put it back together and we'll see how it runs. Okay, so what I've done here, since I had to break the fan to get it out, or break the little rubber mounts, I drilled 2 holes up in here, ran these wire ties through the upper, and then I also ran some right through here, and they actually run to the outside over here. And they're black, so you can't see them very well. That just keeps the fan mounted in place. It works pretty good now. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. It used to be really slow to start, and sometimes it wouldn't restart. So now, when I plug it in, it spins just fine. I just unplugged it, it should spin down. You can see it's got, the bearings are working awesome now with that graphite. So anyway, I've got this thing fixed now. So if you have one, I know they're only 70 bucks, but if you hate throwing it in the garbage, they can be fixed. When the capacitors explode, you can order those from DigiKey, solder them in. You saw how I fixed the fan. If it starts spinning slow, you can take it apart and lubricate the bearing. So anyway, I've kept this thing that was designed like crap and made in China with poor quality parts. I got it going again, so now I'll have a cold beer tomorrow when this thing cools the beer down. Hope this was entertaining, maybe informative. Thank you.